If I could get everybody to take their seats, please. We do have our next candidate ready to go. I would like to say also, out of respect for the rest of the audience who would like to ask questions, if you do have a question, please keep it to the point and let the candidate answer fully, and we can move on with the next question then. Thank you. Our third candidate is Mr. Jim Ritzma. Mr. Ritzma comes to us from the city of Battle Creek, where he is currently the assistant city manager.
Thank you, Jerome. And I just want to say thank you first to Mayor Hopewell and the City Commission for giving me the opportunity, the privilege to present here this evening. And I know the city manager position is a very important position to fill. So I think the process, even though it's intense and has been intense, is a good one because it really has to be a partnership between the city manager, the community, city commission, and staff. So I think it's good that you're taking the time to really look at each individual. I'd like to also recognize my wife, Sheila. She's here this evening. My kids couldn't be here. They're busy with track and cross country and all that. So, but I have 3 children, and we live in Battle Creek, and we're really looking forward to the opportunity, if selected, that you know, what Kalamazoo has to offer. And I think as a community, you have a lot going for you, and we would really love to be a part of that. We've got, you know, I've done a lot of reading over the last few weeks, and you just got a lot of great things going for you as a community, and I'd like to be a part of that to help, you know, accentuate that and also go beyond. So, you know, we're very impressed with the promise and the commitment there to education, to building a strong community, and really stabilizing a lot of areas, whereas other urban core cities are struggling right now with schools and people moving out. Kalamazoo, I see, has a very good asset there, and that is certainly something that I think you can be proud of. As a community, Battle Creek is much like Kalamazoo, and we've got an urban core community, a central business district with surrounding neighborhoods, and together there are a lot of issues that come with that. I've worked in an urban core community as assistant city manager and finance director in Battle Creek, and there are a lot of struggles and challenges, and I understand a lot of the issues and challenges that have recently been undertaken, and I feel I could be a part of that, bring some strong skills, skill set to the position with a strong understanding of finance and kind of how the city is a partner in a lot of ways with the community and with other organizations in the surrounding townships, county. I know there's a strong relationship between Portage and Kalamazoo that needs to be maintained and enhanced, because again, with those challenges, we have opportunities to kind of lift everyone up, and that's what it's going to take to do the job. And I think you're looking for someone who's going to come and hit the ground running, and I am that person. I think I could come in and really, set a good pace to get us where we're going through the next challenges coming up with, I understand there's some gap, it continues to be a gap in the budget that needs to be dealt with, and again, we're going to look through at ways to collaborate and through cooperation, and both internally and externally, see if we can tackle that again for a sustainable future, because I think that's what it's all about, is building the city for tomorrow, not right now, because a lot of the issues we've been dealing with have really been created because problems weren't handled in the past, not by commissions or, I think you're in general, you can look at the country as in a similar position as Kalamazoo and a lot of Michigan communities where, issues haven't been dealt with that need to be to build a sustainable future. So, I look forward to the opportunity to be able to do that and work together with the excellent team in place, with the City Commission, and hopefully, we can really build a strong tomorrow. And I just personally, I have I come from really a position of trust. I need to earn trust, and that's my style. I think from trust you can go a lot of places, building relationships, and that goes with employees, with commissioners, with outside agencies, outside influences. So again, if we understand where we're coming from, we can work better together to help get us to where we need to go. And I look forward to that opportunity to work with people, to gain the trust and to earn the trust, and then be trusted and trust others. And with that, I think we can go a long way. I'm a big collaborator. I think that's how we get things done. I'm not a micromanager. I don't want to sit and watch someone work all day. I want to help them do their job the best they can. I've met a lot of the team today. They do a great job. I think you got a strong workforce here, and the community, again, with all of the opportunities there, I think I can really bring some value to that and help them be better, and together I think we can really deal with a lot of the challenges coming up that aren't going to go away. And I know right now, I mentioned the gap in the budget. There's a lot of issues with legacy costs. That's a big problem in not only Kalamazoo, but other communities. Again, we have promised benefits for the future and how we're going to pay for them. And that's going to be a challenge. You're dealing with, promises like we talked about, but we also have fiscal realities. And I don't want to get into the Detroit situation, but I think that's a wake-up call for a lot of communities, that we've got to be careful with the decisions we make today and how they impact things tomorrow, and try to get to a point where we can sustain, both the community, the state, and our country. And, I feel, I could be a big part of it in Kalamazoo and maybe a smaller part in the state and country. But I really think, that's where my heart is right now, passion. I love, the job I do. I'm not looking to leave Battle Creek, but I see this as truly an opportunity to come to a great community and take the skills that I've developed and really apply them in a leadership position in Kalamazoo and kind of take this community to the next level. So really look forward to that, and I believe, that's where I'm at. Do we go to questions now? Okay.
If you're not looking to leave, why are you here?
Because I want to come to an opportunity here. What I meant is I'm not leaving anything negatively in Battle Creek. It's a positive way to come to a community and be a part of it and kind of go to that next level.
Another thing that you said, not looking to do anything right now, but the future. Isn't there some things that we can do now here in Kalamazoo?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if how I phrased it, but part of the job of the person coming in is they're gonna need to assess and evaluate, observe, learn, and then act. And I think that process takes some time. There might be some action right away. I would rely more on the team that's in place right now to determine what we can do. But I would certainly be in a position to start acting. But the reality is anyone coming in here is going to have to learn the community in depth, the issues, and I think that I could do an Excel version of that, accelerated version of that, and be ready to go. But yeah, certainly there's going to be a learning period. Yeah. That's a good question. How would I increase revenue? Well, I would recommend ways to increase revenue. But certainly I think, okay, I think if you look at the municipal finance model in Michigan, it's broken. We rely on property taxes, and I know in Kalamazoo, a large portion of that tax base is tax exempt. So you've got a lot of potential revenue there that it doesn't exist. So, what I think relying on taxes, property taxes, is going to be difficult at best going forward. Property values are not going to come back anytime soon. So you got to look at other ways of generating revenue. And I know there's, taxes in general are a difficult thing to sell. You know, it just kind of feels like we're overtaxed as a society to begin with. But the reality is we've got problems. You know, we've got, like I mentioned, legacy costs, we got gaps in budgets, we got values that aren't going to come back, so we got to do something. You can hit the expenditure side of the budget and cut services. I don't think people really want that either. So we got to, and I've done this in the past, you know, kind of realign things, realign expectations, but also realign the revenue side. In Battle Creek, we have an income tax. Now, I know that is not an easy sell. It certainly isn't. But I've read a report that Southwest Michigan first did a while ago that looked at this whole issue in this region. And I think if you took a service and isolated that service, regionalized it, and tied a revenue source to it, countywide or region-wide authority or something, it would take some of the burden off communities, but would also help that service that everyone enjoys, a priority service, and kind of spread that burden around. So, and I think the report kind of looked at the region too, because the belief is, you know, we're all in this together. Kalamazoo is not an island, but it is also has challenges. So I think it's to everyone's advantage to make sure Kalamazoo survives, and as a region, we bring everything up. So I support that effort, and again, working with the surrounding jurisdictions towards some of that. You know, you can increase user fees, you can do a lot of, you know, kind of nickel and dime things, but, you know, you got to look at the elephant in the room, and that's the, you know, large liabilities out there and how you're going to pay for them with a broken model of financing. So I think there are some tough areas that need to be looked at. Yeah. Sure. One of the big ones, this was back in about 2006, talking about legacy costs. We had I would call it a crisis in our police and fire pension fund with respect to the funding of retiree health care out of it. And these are folks that have already been retired, have been receiving health care fully funded, as well as a pension from those funds. And projections showed that that was not sustainable. And so what we did is we took the commission through what I'd call a decision tree and kind of worked through options to get to a solution. And it was painful. This room back in Battle Creek would have been full of police and fire retirees that weren't happy. But we managed to navigate through it and basically make the fund sustainable, but yet provide a certain level of benefit to those retirees, and again, building it for tomorrow, and we worked through that. So that took a series of, that was over a few months of special meetings and so forth. So, you know, and I helped navigate the commission through that with the decision tree. More recently, kind of on the innovative side, we have a company right by Battle Creek that does a waste to energy project, or takes waste biosolids from water or sewer plant and makes that into energy. And we've just signed a contract, and that project's coming online in the next few months. And again, that's going to take what was a cost liability to the city and make it into a revenue stream to help keep you know, costs down, and also it's considered a green project. So yeah. So the question was, what programs would I support, current programs that are underway, as well as ways to address the poverty, lowering the poverty in the area. And I think that's one of those areas. There's a lot of social demographic areas that are struggling with indicators such as poverty, infant mortality, all those. And, I would see the city as a partner in the solution. I'm a part of the transition or the coordinating council in Calhoun County that kind of takes all the social service agencies and kind of aligns them in a way to coordinate services being provided so they're all working together to solve a problem. Now, the indices in Battle Creek aren't great, and some of those aren't moving, those needles. So, it's not working, but the plan is there to start impacting some of those areas. Again, the city is a partner in all that. I mean, there's obviously implications of those issues on the city, the community, and as a whole, so we need to be at the table and in some ways drive some of that. But, we don't have all the answers, but we're certainly going to be, at the table talking about solutions that can deal with some of those issues. Yeah. I missed the last, what was?
How would you recommend that we cultivate capable leaders, which
Mm-hmm.
and what would those people look like?
Okay. So you're coming from a perspective of community, or within the city, or both? Okay. Yeah, and, leadership is a tough nut because there's different ways to lead. You can lead by example, you can, be a servant leader. I mean, there's all kinds of forms of leadership, and part of it is learning when to lead and when to let yourself be led, and that's a challenge. It's a skill, and it can be learned, but some of that is what I would call soft skills that you want to develop all the way starting in school, all the way up to, me as a manager or whatever. It's those ways of dealing with people, again, relating with people, and gaining trust, and then moving things forward. If you don't approach things, without trust, you're going to get nowhere. So I think some of that's instilled through school education and other parts of it at home, and you can do some structured leadership courses and things like that. We have a leadership, it's called a leadership challenge in Battle Creek, and there's a group that goes through, it's like a course, it's several month course. That's a way to kind of formalize the process of developing leaders, but it's really coming, starting at the childhood level all the way up to raise those leaders that want to serve, that want to impact their community, and I think that's really how I would see supporting a lot of those initiatives and building that tomorrow for leaders. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah, and if the question is what kind of leader am I, I certainly can answer that. And what I like to say is I'm adaptive. I've worked in environments where I have to lead, and I've worked in environments where you kind of push, hold back a little bit, let things develop. So it's knowing when to do that. Creative, big picture, getting us from here to there, and strategic, how we do that, tactical. I mean, that's all, woven in to how I lead by example. I think you walk the walk, you talk the talk. That's all part of it. And, you know, again, it's not about title. It's not about being the man. It's about, you know, creating and the people around you, making them the best they can be. And it's for the bigger picture, the larger good, and, you know, developing that in a trustful way. Yeah. Yeah. Challenges and adversity. You know, one of the things I've learned, and I don't have all the answers, you know, I'm late 40s, so I've got a lot of years to learn yet. But, you know, one thing I try to do is, you know, don't get too emotional. Don't get, you know, kind of, don't react right away to challenges, adversity. And I'm talking about, you know, big things right then and there. I mean, if you have to act to save a life or to do, you know, something like that, yeah, action's good. But, you know, if I'm feeling anger or, you know, questioning some things, I need to step back and really, you know, assess, get input into how to deal with a lot of those, you know, those types of turmoil or challenges. So, you know, again, it's approaching it as a solver of a situation, not, you know, getting even or blaming anybody. It's let's get to the solution to whatever the challenge is or adversity, and that's going to involve, using people around me, and you know, they're going to look to me to be that example of how we get there. And if I'm, you know, full of anger, full of anxiety myself, that's not a good, you know, demonstration of how we're going to get through some challenges. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, Calhoun County has consolidated dispatch, and I wasn't directly involved in the time it was consolidated. The current city manager took over at that point, but I was involved early on in kind of modeling the financial makeup of that. More recently, I've worked with all of our neighboring townships at the table to negotiate a sewer contract. And if you think that isn't hard to do, yeah, so but we were able to get through, it's still being worked on, but we got to a compromise there, or what we believe terms of a contract that, again, it helped the city and it helped the townships, and you gotta work together on that. And I think there's a lot of improvement. You know, that's a natural tension right there, townships, city. Townships are perceived as you're coming into the city, using all our services, and then you leave. City is like, you know, the township's like, well, you can't charge me because I don't live there. So I think there's a lot of natural tension there, but, and you gotta work through that to get to a solution. Couple minutes left.
How will you work with the local businesses and entrepreneurs to enable more cool places and businesses to be fostered in Kalamazoo? Like the Black Olive, Washington Cafe, Electric Cafe, etc.
Well, I've got teenagers, so they don't think I'm cool. But I do understand what it is, you know, what people want. I want a cool city as well. A lot of those cool things that others might have. San Antonio, those places that you think of, that's a cool city. And what I would say is, yeah, I will support and work towards those things, but if we don't have a sustainable city as a whole, it won't matter. I mean, so I think you got to work at the core, getting that sustainable, then you can really start taking off from there. And, you know, I think you've got an incredible start here right now, and I would want to keep that going. But again, we got some of these deeper issues that need to be worked on that, you know, to keep this going. So that's where I'd be going. Yep. Kalamazoo and Ann Arbor. Yeah. I think they do, though. I think they want to be here. And I'm a Buckeye. I'll admit it right now. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye, okay? So I can bash Ann Arbor if you want, but no, I won't. No, really, I think that's the misperception that Kalamazoo is the happening place to be, you know, at least in the western part of the state. What happens in Ann Arbor is great, but you're only going to attract from around that. And where the difference is, I can't point to anything right now. I mean, I'm assuming University of Michigan is a little larger than Western, but, you know, you've got, yeah. But I think the goal is to be more happening than Ann Arbor. So let's do it. Yeah. Sure. Well, county elections, you know, the registration through that, as it relates to a city, you know, through a clerk's office, getting folks signed up for registering to vote. You know, I'd have to look at what's being done right now and kind of how successful it's been, how unsuccessful, and then, you know, look at ways to get out into those communities to get people signed up. The incarceration piece, I don't know, you know, if that literally going to wherever they're incarcerated, and you know, or is it a communication, you know, education piece that needs to be, they need to know they can vote. So, yeah. Right. So, you know, reaching out to them, you know, and supporting those types of efforts, I think, would be important. Again, because, you know, making decisions at election time is critical for a community. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think DDA in Battle Creek's a little different. We've got about $50-some million in debt. I think yours is a little less than that. But what we capture is a lot more, too. But still, the dynamic's the same. There's a revenue shortfall. What I was able to do, this was earlier this year, actually it started last year, was working through our legislators to get some language added to the DDA Act that will allow us to restructure that debt, to kind of smooth it out and to lower it into what we can afford. It's something you don't always want to do, but if it came, you know, to that, or, you know, not being able to pay the bonds back and defaulting, you know, what's worse. So we were able to get that legislation in place, and we're getting set here to do a restructuring probably by the end of this year. So, you know, that was one piece. I've worked with the DDA finances since I came to Battle Creek in 2000, and, you know, that revenue has just gone down, down, down. But being able to manage that through, we were able to, those same bonds, restructure them back in 2004 to get Keebler to come to Battle Creek, their headquarters. So it's part of that process to do that in a way that, you know, helped bring them here, but didn't bankrupt or harm the DDA. So just some of those ways that I've worked with DDA. Okay. City of Battle Creek and Township, Battle Creek Township. I wasn't around at the time, but basically that was driven by the Kellogg Company telling the city and township, you need to join, merge, or we're going to move out. So that kind of drove a lot of that challenge. Now, it was still a sell. I mean, one, are they bluffing? Or two, do they mean it, and we better merge? So I know the mayor that was mayor at the time when that all happened, he actually worked through that process, and he said it was tough, but I think people at the end of the day realized what the choice needed to be. So thank you.
Once again, I believe our fourth candidate and final candidate is just about ready, so if you need to fill out your forms, let's do it quickly. We can move forward. Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, I see people fanning themselves and yawning, so I think we need to move forward and finish this up tonight so we can get to the Radisson. If you could take your seats, please, we will introduce our fourth and final candidate. Our fourth candidate tonight is Dr. George Penn, who comes from Cerrito, California, with a consulting group, PDA Consulting Group. Dr. Penn?
Good evening. I want to say thank you for inviting me here. This is a wonderful, wonderful city. Throughout the course of today and in previous weeks, I have, and I'm a walker and talker, so I've had questions from people back west and here, particularly today. You're a California boy? Why do you want to come to Kalamazoo? And why? What makes it fit for you? And with a lot of prayer and a lot of confidence, I say, because Kalamazoo is a great city. Kalamazoo is a great city. I was born and raised in New Jersey. So technically I'm a Jersey boy. I spent my second childhood in Ohio. So could be a Midwesterner also. Born and raised with 8 kids in the family in the housing projects of New Jersey. With a commitment of family and father and mother, brothers and sisters, that we were a family, that we valued family. that we valued education, that we valued community, that we valued equality. We valued liberty for all. A very diverse city, a very diverse community. I grew up in a community that had an Italian section of town, Jewish section of town, African American section of town, Puerto Rican section of town. I grew up with diversity. Poor sections of town, medium sections of town, high-level sections of town. That's within me. We thrive to get along together to enhance the quality of life for all people. So they said, why Kalamazoo? Why Kalamazoo? I looked at the website and I looked at the announcement for the position through Voorhees, and it said we want a city manager that is sensitive to diversity. We want a city manager who is sensitive to human rights. We want a city manager who is able to connect and enhance our quality of life and connect our neighborhoods, have a vibrant downtown. We want a city manager that is Kalamazoo's match. Yes, deal with the technical things. We need a city manager that can deal with finance. Help coordinate a team of people that can bring in businesses. But the main thing is that we want a city manager who fits with Kalamazoo. And with those list of things, equality, liberty, those are the things that this country was built on. So when I told my wife, who's over at the Radisson, she may be watching, I hope not. Because I will get a critical evaluation when I come back. But that's okay, she's my partner. And that's what makes us both good. So she said, okay, we got it, and so let's see, what are the values, what are the things, let's go on the website, let's go see what the values are. And she started reading them off. I had already read them off weeks ahead of time. I knew it was a fit. On the website it said we need connectivity. We want to be inclusive. We are a philanthropic community. We are a caring community. We are leading edge on many of the issues that haunt cities today. We have a community spirit here. And she said, baby, that's you. That's what you've been about in your life and in your career. And when we landed at Kalamazoo Airport, from the time we landed, it was confirmed by the various things that happened. Many small things, but they were confirmed. The city provided us on Wednesday a person to go around and look at the property and look at the various communities here. And it was a Caucasian gentleman who's showing us around. And to get familiar, you have kids, you have family? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have two daughters, one 13 and one 16. I said, oh, that's great. Whew, I said, I've been there, done that. 13 and 14, 16-year-olds. That's a really tough stage. Yeah, and I have an older son, and yeah, I had challenges with him. Okay. He said, but I just adopted and took into my home a 14-year-old. I said, oh, male, yeah, ooh. I said, oh, that's a challenge. You just took him in? Yes. He was having trouble in his family, abandoned by his parents, and I took him in. He just happened to be African American. This man taking into an African American into his family, two young girls in his family, and I was kind of blown away. That's a humongous responsibility. And look at the challenges ahead. In back of that, I said, but if that's the kind of values that an individual in this community has, That's the kind of family I want to join. That's the kind of family I want to join and be a part of in the community. During that process, the commission members asked, we want to, came back through the search firm, through Voorhees, well, we want a commitment from the candidates that you're going to implement the human rights ordinance for the city of Kalamazoo. That confirmed it to me also. There's a priority, there's an interest in furthering all of the citizens and visitors in Kalamazoo. That fit my profile. That's a fit for me. I said, that's in my wheelhouse. I can hit that. I can deal with it. I can deal with that. And then I looked at during that process, I looked at the ordinance. And I have a tendency to be professorial sometimes, excuse me, but sometimes I am, and I like to tell stories. I'm not professorial, but yeah, they said that of the President of the United States, he's too professorial, but hey, if it's going to get the point across, I can do it. But it said there, and things that I tell my students, I teach part-time, I teach political science and government in LA, and it's taught public administration and public policy. It said there things that was a promise, that Martin Luther King said was a promise to us when this country was built. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among those rights are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That's in our ordinance here in Kalamazoo. That is a promise. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. He was a guide for me. A guide. Not a God, a guide for me. He said the Declaration of Independence was a promise. It was a promissory note. But it had insufficient funds. And we all came to collect with insufficient funds. And I knew then, at the age of 18, that's the purpose of my life. One of the purposes of my life. I'm going to put resources into that account. I've been a public servant all of my life. I never wanted to do anything else. To serve. Public service. And from that time on, it was on and cracking. The places I chose to go to had to have those values. It had to be that fit that I was going to serve and enhance the quality of life of the people in that community. And that's what my commitment is here, to do the same. For as long as you'll have me in the family, to do that. Now that's good, talking those lofty kind of things, those professorial type of things, but what puts legs to it? I started off my career in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went all the way from New Jersey, all the way to Ohio. Went to my first year at Central State University in Wilberforce. Transferred to Miami of Ohio. From an all-black environment to an all-white environment. So I'm bicultural, tricultural. Most of us are. Left there, went to Cincinnati to be, if any of you remember, are old enough to know the old TV program, Welcome Back, Kotter? Yeah, I see one in the back. We're here. Welcome Back, Kotter. They asked me to take over in the worst junior high school in the city, in the inner city, which I was trained for to teach. And in my class, a self-contained class, inner city young people who had emotional and discipline problems in my class. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to give back. Because it said, to those that much is given, much is required. To those that much more is given, much more is required. So I've been trained, and I believe that I have a commitment, because I've been blessed with a lot of different things, is to give that back in the community I serve. So I did. They wouldn't allow them to change classes because they were afraid of what they would do to other people, to themselves. So it was self-contained. And day after day, with those inner city youth, the worst junior high school in the urban city of Cincinnati, most of you are familiar with Cincinnati, over about 500,000 people in the city at the time. Well, that was my commitment, to give back. And there I said, I need to change things. I need to plan communities that would prevent those kinds of young people from coming through the system, direct system. So I got a master's in community planning, another master's in educational administration, and went on in the interim as working full-time for the city of Cincinnati. I went on to get my PhD in political science, public administration. Still working in the field with my sleeves rolled up, trying to make a difference. I stayed with the agency called the Citizens Committee on Youth, the Department of the City, for 10 years, advocating for young people and families in the city of Cincinnati. They had the vision to have a special department that deals with young people in the city. And that's what I did for 10 years. My commitment was to Cincinnati. And the city manager, who was a city manager in Inkster and Lansing, Michigan here, one of my mentors, was the city manager of Cincinnati. He said, I need you to come to San Diego, who got the job as the city manager of San Diego, California. I said, I love it here in the Midwest. It's been very good to me. Good in community. I need you. I need you to come. I have a police-community relations problem. I have a police force that needs reorganizing to be more community-focused. It's a tragic incident that happened that divided the community racially, across racial lines. So I need you to come. I know you did that in Cincinnati. I want you to come here and do that for me, which I did. A commitment to give back. So why the fit? And from there to other cities as assistant city manager in Carson, city of San Jose, director of neighborhood services for the city of San Jose, city administrator for the city of Atlantic City, dealing with many of the challenges that we have here in Kalamazoo. The exception is that Kalamazoo has a community spirit that I feel will be open to it. So in terms of technical things, I have those. I have the budgeting, I have finance, I have development, economic development, vice president of economic development for the city of San Diego, vice president, assistant city manager dealing with economic development and redevelopment for the city of San Diego, public works, all those things internally. And yes, they enhance the quality of life for our city. Those are internal things. The important thing is that you create an atmosphere of community spirit that says we can overcome any challenge if we do it together. I don't have the answers. That would not be my job with the commission, I'm sure. The answers are with the commission, with the community, the city staff, and everyone that has a stake here. And it's my job to get those answers out of you, of city staff, of the commissioners, and give my most professional recommendation to them. That's why the fit is good for me in Kalamazoo. I feel warm, I feel safe, I feel part of a family. When I stepped off that plane, when we stepped off the plane, it was verified at every step. That's it. Thank you. Yes, sir. To what? Oh, yes, I've read about it and heard about it. Mm-hmm. 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 What can I do? Oui, yes. Right. I don't want to be disrespectful, but can I take my jacket off? Okay. He's saying that many of the students, from his perspective, I'm just trying to paraphrase him, that go through the promise in the program are maybe ill-prepared and don't finish their college career. Okay? Drop out. Is that correct? Yes. What can we do? I know there's a program here in Kalamazoo that has an emphasis on preparation for college, SAT preparation, GED preparation, tutoring, teaching what environment you're going to encourage, that you're going to go into. Most college students, and I know because my mother used to say, boy, you're making a career out of going to school. You got more college degrees than a warm summer's day. But most students are ill-prepared to go to a different environment, a different culture. I am presently, with the many things that I do, besides being the executive director of Nuevo South, which is a community-based nonprofit working for community development in South LA, is a concentration on Latino students getting GED, getting oriented to probably a college or technical education, but teaching them about the rigors of passing through, of going through. I'm also, as part of my church, I'm the interim executive director of the Bridges Community Economic Development Corporation. Under that, we have the Academic Center of Excellence, where we provide SAT preparation and tutoring for students preparing, starting in their freshman year. SAT, here's how you need to go through it. Taking them on tours to college campuses, having speakers come in and talk about financial aid and the environment. What we can do is have similar programs like that here. I've heard someone today or yesterday say that we have some things here. We need to expand that. We need to make that a part of the promise. Whether they're black, whether they're white, whether they're poor, whether they're rich. Most of this, I was not prepared. I was not prepared. The first time I set my foot on that campus, Central State, with a football scholarship and everything going for me, was my father, God bless his soul. He drove me from New Jersey to Cincinnati, to Cleveland. And then we went down to Cincinnati and down to Wilberforce. And my father was a custodian, my greatest teacher. But he worked his way up to be the statewide representative for the teachers union, and combined custodian teachers union. Brilliant person. But he was a father, and he prepared me in this way. He didn't know anything about college. Although he could have went, he was a brilliant man. Didn't know anything about college. But he knew about being a father and about being a man, teaching me how to be a man. So he gets out of the car. My mother's in the back seat, and she sees all these big guys walking around preseason football, and she goes, oh, my baby, my baby. Aren't you going to walk him up to the dorm? He goes in the trunk, gets my little run case, and sets it on the curb and says, bye, son. That's all I can do for you. And this is it? That's all you can say? That's all you're going to do? That's all I can do. Got back in the car. My mother's in the back seat crying. He's not a baby. He's a man. We've done all we can for him. We gave him love. We gave him attention. And it left me there. And I'm sitting over there, alone. One little suitcase. My mother's in the back crying. I said, that was the worst thing. What kind of father is that? Leave me here alone. He had eight kids. He couldn't do anything more than that, but prepare me to be a man. Prepare my sisters to be women that love. We need to go further than that. Definitely further than just to drop somebody in a pool and say swim. We need to do a lot better conditioning and preparing and coaching our young people for a changed environment. It's completely different from their world. And they are and will be independent. And we need to teach them that and coach them that it's going to be different. Academics, I think, is secondary. It's secondary. You go into a different cultural environment, a different thing, you need to learn how to navigate through that. Once I learned how to do that, the academics came like that. And the discomfort that most kids have. It's like finding who your posse is going to be. who are you going to surround yourself with? How do you select somebody who's going to help you instead of hindering you and holding you back? And the biggest mistake I think new college students make is choosing the wrong people to hang around with and be with. That's the biggest one. Who you surround yourself with is how you want to roll. I see here a young person saying here. Yeah. And those are basic things that we as parents and we as community need to teach our young people. Because when they do go out there and they see, oh, yes, this is the way it's going to be, and that's what, they generally come back home. They generally come back home. And that's what we want them. We want them to put the resources into them, send them off, come back. We want you back home. Some of them we lose for legitimate reasons, but most we want them to come back to contribute, come back and you give back. So we need to do a better job of coaching, taking them through the system, working with them. That's my cut on it. Thank you. And yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. I started off my city management in Cincinnati, where I was assistant director, assistant department head for the organization called the Citizens Committee on Youth. For me, that's my greatest accomplishment. It gave me the opportunity to, again, give back. That was my purpose, to give back, to mold minds, to advocate for young people, to provide programming and resources and get the grants, to have youth service bureaus and education centers and GED preparation and jobs programs and work with families. So that was there. And then I was, again, promoted to the director of the Human Relations Commission, which dealt with differences and diversity in the city of Cincinnati. Very challenging times, sort of post-riot times and things where we had to get out there and really connect with people and get people connected and get over the racial things and get over the other things that hold cities back and hold them hostage to differences and make bridges. That was another accomplishment, but after leaving, I was happy in Cincinnati. Great neighborhoods. And in Cincinnati is where I really learned how to be community-oriented in my management style. Neighborhood-oriented, focused on neighborhood. That's where the power is, and that's where the knowledge is. And if you're truly a servant leader, you're serving them. And they're telling you, you are telling me what needs to be done. So in Cincinnati, if you went to the city council or the city commission, call it here, and you were going to put up, any department, you're going to put up a stop sign. And they had 44 distinct communities backed by the city council. The first question from a commissioner would be, did you check with the community on this? What did they think about it? Well, it's only a stop sign, Commissioner. Commissioner said, no, hold this up, go back. Come back with us with no reaction. Okay, it's a stop sign. That's where. So you cut that in the community. But in terms of going to San Diego from Cincinnati, I was happy. City manager who was, again, he cut his teeth in Michigan. By the name of Sylvester Murray. And then at that time I met Robert Bobb, who was the city manager here in Kalamazoo for a while. and we became great friends. We established a national organization for managers. And I sat on the board for a long while. But the manager went from, and I'm going over time, right? The manager went to San Diego to become a city manager of San Diego. He said, I know what you're doing, I know what you've done for me while you were the director of human relations in terms of police community relations in San Diego, in Cincinnati. I need you to come here to help me with this. I have a major police community relations problem. And he said, Penn. I said, okay, I'll come, but listen, you know I want to be a city manager. You're a mentor of mine. I want to round off myself. I want to get into technology. You know, my dissertation, my PhD is the use of technology for decision making. So, okay. So I'll get you in a second. So he said, Penn, you signed the contract? I brought my family all the way across from Cincinnati to San Diego. You signed the contract? Yes, ma'am. Do you know this gentleman who caused all this problem here? He was stopped by a police officer. Police officer asked for his ID. He didn't give him his ID. A fight ensued. The officer was on top of him. He took the officer's revolver, shot the police officer, went to his partner, shot him, went to the ride-along in a cruiser, shot her. Got in the cruiser, ran over one of the police officers that he had just previously shot. Now, I can talk about all these lofty things, but this is real rubber hits the road here that I was responsible for trying to come and help solve. Net result was one officer dead, the second officer that he ran over paralyzed on his right-hand side for life, and the third, the ride-along, got away with the wounding. City manager said, Penn, he called me Penn. Penn, did you sign the contract? I said, yeah, I'm going to sign it. Just hold up. I had to read it over first. So he said, do you know the person's name that caused all this problem? It's the devil incarnate to the police department and to a lot of the community. You know he's guilty. No, but I've heard about the incident. Well, you're going to go see the chief of police, and here's your letter from the city manager saying you're going to be over the police department. You're going to help deal with this problem. Did you know the name of the person? I said, no, I don't. He said his name is Sagan Penn. Now here I am, very young, feeling my oats, African American, going into a 99% Caucasian organization with the same last name, African American also, same last name as the person that they think is. I went to the chief of police officer the next day and said, hello, my name is James Brown. But the chief of police and I, we would spit and cuss and do all the rest of those things behind closed doors. I don't know if it's being televised. Sorry, dear. Behind closed doors. But we came and we fought. Literally sometimes almost coming to blows about what's best for the community. And out of that experience, it was a commitment of mine to give back with my experience. So, net result was that young black gentleman, 2 trials, not guilty. Not guilty. We posed the most challenging racial and community challenges that I had ever faced in my career. But in the end, that community thrived because of that controversy, and diversity prevailed in San Diego. It wasn't necessary. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, and I'll be brief because I know it's hot in here, and I know you're going to go to the reception. I would enjoy that. In Cincinnati, yes. The first we had to do is one of the topics that I had for one of my masters was in community planning was the a social study to determine youth conditions and needs. And as I mentioned before, we used that to go into each one of the 44 communities. We had about 30 of them, that we established a strategic plan for each community. Based on input from that community, I said, okay, what do you want? In this community, every community is different. You go across the street here, and the community over here is different than the community over here in the different ways. So we developed a strategic plan, a master plan for that community with youth, with measurable objectives, with an outcome and a time frame. And we're going to implement that here. And yes, at a certain time, for that particular community, we said, this is how we're going to measure it. Do you agree with this community or not? This is, you know, we're in this together, a social contract between government and you. This is what you want? This is how you want to measure it? Yes. We move forward, and 6 months, things change. We apply all the departments. We did that in Cincinnati. And recently in San Jose, where I was Director of Neighborhood Services, my department was responsible for neighborhood development. My mega department, 1,700 employees. And it was our responsibility to go into each community by the commissioner. The commissioner would say, we want you to go into these 3 communities and do that. Come up with a strategic plan, measurable, agree with the community. You take the police chiefs, you take the planning director, you take the park and recreation director, which I was too. And you take all those departments who have a handle on it, and you go in and you come to an agreement with the community about where they want to be at together in 6 months, a year. And we go back in, each department head had to go down there and agree to it with the community. At the end of that time, it got so bad, but it felt so good, that the community would not let us come out. Well, no, we got to leave. Well, we got to go to another community. No, we don't want you to leave. So we had to go to the commission and say, could you tell them that you're going to? But the commission wisely said, well, yeah, but have an exit plan. How do you transition out of it to another neighborhood? So those things were based on, you're absolutely correct. But you have to set those up front, and you have to agree it with the community on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we will adjourn. The reception will begin at 7:30 at the Radisson Hotel. I cannot tell you what room, I'm afraid, so you'll have to follow the signs when you get there. Anybody that would like to ask further questions of the candidates, all 4 candidates will be present at the reception. It will be going on until 9 o'clock. Thank you for your attendance tonight.